Okay, my friends, extremely exciting news. You know that UCLA Health does research on different things, and they've been looking into the coronavirus, and they have found what they call a potential treatment. And I looked into this, and I am pretty impressed. Now, they do a study detailing the research, and here's what they're saying. The researchers from UCLA and China have found that catalase, which is just a simple enzyme, holds potential low-cost therapeutic drug to treat the symptoms and suppress the replication of coronavirus inside the body. And we're going to look into that advanced study in a second. Now, they do research, and that's what I do too. So I'm not recommending anybody take anything or do anything. I'm presenting the research. Okay, this is the published paper about this, and this is by some very, very accomplished researchers, and it's September. It's not, it's over a month old now, and I haven't heard another word about this other than this paper. And the only reason I saw this paper, it's not widely available that I know of. I just bumped into this researching something else that tied in with another enzyme that just brought me here. Let's put it by accident. Now, this is what they did. This is COVID-19 pandemic taking a significant toll on people worldwide. There are currently no specific antivirus drugs or vaccines. Now, I don't know if that's changing right now, but antivirus drugs or vaccines do something to you that is unnatural, in my thinking. Now, herein, it is a therapeutic based on catalase. So they're going to talk about catalase, which is this stuff right here. You just buy this stuff. Now, it's an antioxidant enzyme. We're always talking about enzymes. You know that. You've heard me say enzyme 10 billion times. It's an antioxidant enzyme. We're going to talk about that in a second. That can effectively, and you don't know how effectively you're talking about, break down hydrogen peroxide and minimize the downstream reactive oxygen species, which is H2O2. It turns it into H2O and then another extra oxygen. That's what this catalase does. And it does it, wait till you see this. And I have a hard time believing it's true, but if they say it's true, I have to take their word. Now, it breaks down hydrogen peroxide, which are excessively produced resulting from infection. So if you have infection, you're going to get a lot of this hydrogen peroxide, or inflammation, same thing. All right. Catalase assists to regulate the production of cytokines. Those are the attackers. And if you have a cytokine storm, it can tear your whole body apart. And they damp them down. Don't get crazy. And the cytokines, we'll go into some detail about this, and we're going to get into some serious detail. But it protects you against these oxidative species, which is H2O2. Now, it represses the replication. So, it stops it from coming back. As demonstrated in human leukocytes, alveolar epithelial cells, which are the layers of the very thin cells that transfer in and out your gases and so forth. And they showed effective in rhesus monkeys, very close relation, without noticeable toxicity. Such a therapeutic can be readily manufactured. It's low cost. I've got some right here. Now, let's just cut down to, because you're never going to understand 99% of this, trust me. But here's where we get to, here's what it's telling you. It eliminates the excessive H2O2. It's critical to minimize the formation of downstream reactive species and prevent injury and avoid immunopathogenesis. That's destroying your immune system. Now, this is the main thing to take away from this. Catalase is the most abundant antioxidant enzyme ubiquitously presented in the liver. It is everywhere. Erythrocytes, alveolar epithelial cells, a most effective catalyst for the decomposition of hydrogen peroxide, H2O2. Now listen to this. this blows my mind in a million pieces, or maybe a billion. One single catalase molecule, one tiny molecule, can break down 10 to the 7th. That's 7 zeros, 10 and 7 zeros, of this H2O2 molecule in 1 second. This is billions and trillions, or whatever it is, with an extremely high turnover number, because the catalase molecule doesn't even break itself. All those go, done. And the catalase molecule just continues to do it over and over and over and over and over. However, catalase generally exhibits poor stability and a short plasma half-life. Now, to explore its therapeutic use, we encapsulated the catalase with a thin shell, and then they go on to all other ways they did things. But it's, what they're talking about is a complete, it looks to me like it does what you would want to do naturally to suppress COVID. Not only that, it suppresses every other hyperinflammatory response, right, in your body, because it affects the cytokines, which are the hyperinflammatory responders. So the hyperinflammatory response is a major cause of disease severity and death in patients with COVID-19. Well, why? Why? Tell me why. And I can tell you why. What happens, they say the infection and the destruction of the lung cells triggers a local immune response. And that's exactly right. What it is these invading enzymes, which are, we call them viruses, but they're nothing more than enzymes. They're a chemistry set that was built inside an organelle and squirted into the bloodstream. And it's an organelle that's been taken over by a bad agent, and it's working against us. But it's still doing the same thing that our good enzymes, the good organelles create good enzymes. It's working exactly the same way, but it's putting out a bad molecule, and that's its job. It's there to do that. Now, listen to this. Think about this now. We say, oh, the guy's suffering from too much zinc in his body. And then the next doctor will say, another guy is suffering from not enough zinc. Well, I can tell you what they're going to find. Is one guy, there's going to be two types of bacteria. One that destroys zinc, and one that creates and pulls the zinc out of things we eat so that we can use it. Now, if this guy here, the zinc maker, just continues to make zinc, because that's his job. I'm making zinc. That's what I'm supposed to do. And this guy says, I watch to make sure there's not too much zinc in the body. If there is, I go out and break that zinc up so that it can be shot out in the feces or whatever it happens to it. But if there's too much, I'm going to go out and regulate it. They dance. If this guy dies, this guy takes over. If this guy dies, that takes over. This guy makes too much zinc, or this guy makes too much zinc, this guy doesn't know zinc at all. So they're both ends of the spectrum, and in my world, they're both created by bacteria, which creates enzymes. If the enzymes aren't there, you can't get rid of the zinc, or you can't make the zinc. Same deal. All bacteria related in my world. And I have to feel somewhere in the body is going to be this COVID virus. It's going to be inside of a membrane-bound organelle. That's the smallest place in the world that it can hide. And that's where these ribosomes, they're two little things, they go together, and they take the virus, they shoot right through the, and it shoots it out, and it makes a replication of itself. But in order to get the virus to be active in this ribosome, something's got to put it there. It didn't just show up there by itself. Some living thing, which I call bacteria, has taken over the nucleolus of the ribosome, which is the central core, and gives the commands. It sends out commands to the guys and says, your program, go out and do this, your program, go out and do that. And that's how they work. And if you don't get to the programmer, which is the bacteria that live in the ribosome, in the nucleolus, you will never get COVID fixed. And how the whole thing ends up in the bottom line is there's these organelles. They're little tiny, bitty, like looking like cells, but all they are is factories to produce an enzyme. And there is a nucleolus in there that directs these little buggers here, which are called ribosomes. They go out and into your bloodstream, and they attack or they break down things or they do all kinds of stuff. And, you know, and if it's a bad one, a virus, it can go and hurt you like COVID-19. Now, you should have a good one in there to affect the bad one and kill that. That's the way these things work. And that's all they do is to produce a little chemistry set. And that's what's in this. It goes out in the form of a pill. It's called a capsid. It's a little enclosed with a membrane around a bunch of codes. And that's all they are is codes. They're not alive. It's a sequence of molecules, and they have to be exactly in that sequence, and they are thousands of them. And then they hit a cell, it gets into the cell, and then it does whatever it does. It either breaks it down, or breaks food down, or it hijacks the cell's circuitry to make more of itself. Bottom line is you're always going to have bad bacteria and you're always going to have good bacteria. You should be able to react with your good bacteria to fight against your bad bacteria, and it is a dance. It's a continuous dance all day long, every day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And one guy dies, the other guy takes over. Case is closed. If this guy makes zinc and this guy destroys zinc, and if he takes over, you have no zinc. And if this guy takes over, you got too much zinc. This guy's got to beat this guy down. This guy's got to keep making the zinc. One guy will stop the other guy. And we've been taking antibiotics, and they put antibiotics in food sources now, into the cattle and all kinds of things. And we're ingesting these things that I really have no idea what happens to people now. But we should be doing. I have a little list of things that we should be doing. Study and compare the enzymes are in people that are healthy and people that are not healthy. And then, where do the enzymes come from? They come from ribosomes like this, and they come out of these nucleoluses. What's in the nucleolus? That's what I want to know. Is there a bacteria living in there? How does this thing get the program out to there? They say, well, there's a virus in there. No, I don't think so. I think, well, I'd like to see. I don't know if they tested this, because they say it's a virus. We don't have to look for bacteria. Well, I think there are bacterias in there. And they are the things that are actually programming and send it out to here, because these aren't full living things. So I think we could look to see what's in a nucleolus, if it's a bacteria, what does it program, and then we can associate, if it is a bacteria, and I believe they are, we can associate that literally to a disease. Right? And catalase is in every single cell in your body, so it's a very, very, very reactive and very necessary thing. And when you saw, or you will see, the density that's in the liver, it's absolutely amazing. Now let's look at the liver and see what the liver and its associated organs do, and they tie into the vagus nerve. So there's a little bit to learn here, but it's really not that complicated. Okay, this is Johns Hopkins, and they're going to be talking about the liver anatomy and the functions. I went to Johns Hopkins for genomics. Now, this is the anatomy of the liver. I'm not going to get too deep into this. All I want to do is to give you the big picture. And the big picture is that you have blood running completely through your body, and all of these cells and all of these organisms that attack you or protect you or break down your food and digest things, they are floating through the blood. They're going through the blood. They have to have a highway to move. Now, when they get into the digestive system, down into the intestines and so forth, they suck up nutrients and things. However, those nutrients and all of that stuff has to be clean. They might be bad. It goes through a series of organs through here, and that catalase appears to me to be the thing that cleans. And all of these have enzymes. Spleen, the stomach, the pancreas, the gallbladder, duodenum, you have a small intestine, large intestines. Now, let's just listen to what it says after. The liver is located in the upper right-hand portion of the abdomen, in the stomach cavity, beneath the diaphragm, and on top of the stomach, right kidney and intestines. Okay, so it's on your right-hand side. Now, it's shaped like a cone, and the liver is a dark reddish brown organ, weighs about 3 pounds, and it is saturated with blood. There's two distinct sources that supply blood to the liver, including the following. Now, this is important to understand. You have oxygenated blood flows in from the hepatic artery, and that is going through the liver, through all of this catalase, through all of these enzymes. Now, what else do you have? You have nutrient-rich blood that's coming in from the hepatic portal vein. Nutrient-rich means it has a lot of things in there that might need to be worked on or cleaned, or bacteria's in them, some nutrients that you're going to use to make your body function. All right? So you got two different things going on. One, and the artery is your your oxygen and red blood, and the other one, the vein, is, in us it's blue, but it's black in the other fossils that I work with. Anyway, the liver holds 1 pint of blood at any given moment. So the liver consists of two main lobes. Both are made of 8 segments that consist of 1,000 lobules, and the lobules are where the things interact. They're connected to small ducts that connect with larger ducts to form the common hepatic duct. It all dumps in together. Now, the common hepatic duct transports the bile, which is another really reactive substance. It transports the bile made by the liver cells to the gallbladder and the duodenum, the first part of the small intestine, by this common bile duct. All right, they're going to be talking about bile, or we already did talk about it, but here's what bile is. It's a dark green or yellowish brown fluid produced by the liver in most vertebrates that aids the digestion, okay, of lipids. That means fats in the small intestine. If you don't have this bile, that's something good for you, you can't break down these lipids. And it really doesn't break them down. Well, here, let's talk about this. In humans, bile is produced continuously by the liver and stored and concentrated in the gallbladder. After eating, the bile is discharged into the duodenum, the small intestine. Now, where is it? Two main pigments. Well, what it boils down to, the bile acts as a surfactant, helping to emulsify the lipids. What it does is it just literally makes them into like a fluid, like say they're a ball of oils. A surfactant means it just dissolves their surfaces, and it makes it so that the enzymes can attack it. All right, now, so we've emulsified the fat. Otherwise, it really sort of holds together in a fatty, not emulsified system. And I think bile may be part of the reason some people are overweight. Now, when I was a kid, I was really, really fat. I mean, I was the only one in my whole town who could fall over and gain altitude. And maybe I had that. I don't know. Who knows? Who could say? But I could tell you, well, I think it was the candy, the ice cream, the brownies, all that stuff. Anyway, the bile will not break down on its own. It needs an emulsifier to just turn it into a liquid, basically. Otherwise, it's almost like a solid ball of jelly. Think of it that way. But you got to get inside of it to break it down. Maybe you could nibble away at the edges a little bit, but you really want to be able to get in there and break it down fast to get your energy and all that stuff. Anyway, bile is very, very important, and that's another product of your digestive system, of your liver. Now, Then you get the dispersion of the food into these little micelles provides a greatly increased surface. That means they just flatten out to a big, almost like water instead of a big block of ice. Increased surface area for the action of the enzyme pancreatic lipase. Now there's another enzyme, but that's a chemistry set. It's going in there, and whatever it does, it breaks down. These are the pancreatic juices do this. It actually digests the triglycerides and is able to reach the fatty core through the gaps between the bile salts. You see, the bile is separating it out so that it can get in there and do its job and eat up the fat. You know, this is digest the triglycerides. Now, anyway, you get the idea of what's going on here. We need enzymes. We desperately need enzymes. And enzymes, in my world, you don't get enzymes unless you have bacteria. And the only place I could think of the way it works is the bacteria hijack an organelle, just like our good bacteria, which we know we have to have the good bacteria. If you don't have good bacteria, this I know for a fact, if you don't have good bacteria in your gut, you are going to be sicker than hell. And I was, and I had to have surgery twice. And then I started getting the good bacteria and the bulk, and perfect. I've never had another problem since. That was all many years ago. And it happened right after I took antibiotics. I'm telling you right now, your body, if your gut is not producing the enzymes, and the only way the enzymes get there is because of bacteria. Bacteria make the enzymes. They think enzymes. Well, I think they know bacteria make enzymes, but enzymes are the same as viruses, and they think viruses just exist on their own. They just come out of nowhere. So you have to have a vaccine, otherwise you're just going to get sick. Nothing you can do about it. Wrong, I believe. I believe if you have the correct enzymes, you will never have that bacteria that's invading you be able to override your bacteria. Your bacteria is so damn healthy, it's going to just say, get out of here, you're done, case closed. Done. And that's what his enzyme should do. And I mean that fast. I'm not kidding you. The sound of that clap should have been all it takes to get rid of COVID-19 in a person's body. When you find out, or you've already maybe have heard me say, and it's a mind blower, 10 to the 7th power, one enzyme can destroy invaders of these other molecules. Well, hydrogen peroxide anyway. It just destroy 10 to the 7th power of those every second, and just go second after second after second, and never even get hurt itself. That's a tough character. Okay, the truth is, I don't think they understand that enzymes and proteins and viruses are all the identical same thing. An enzyme is exactly like a virus. What are they all? Because they're all the same thing. So let's just start with the same thing, because they're all the same thing. And they are created by, in my world, bacteria. Now proteins, that could be a different process. Some of them. We'll talk about that later. That could actually be a coded manufacturing plant. But enzymes and viruses are bacteria related because they can evolve. They can change. The bacteria changes every year, so you get a different virus every year because it understands. I was beaten up last year, so I'm going to change a little bit. And our body changes its antibodies based on attacks, which I believe now we store them as program codes, or we keep them in organelles that are dedicated to have that bacteria. And I think that's the case now, because they just came up with a new study, and I'm going to show you in a minute, that it says your books are wrong. Don't forget your textbooks about cells, because they're not right, totally wrong. And I'll show you. And this was done by, I believe, again, UCLA or one of those big, Go Call is the guy, Seeker. Now, here's what happens. You get some triggers an enzyme, which are a protein or a virus, and that is called a bacteria. In my world, that's what happens. I don't care what anybody says. It doesn't happen just by accident. Not these sickness ones. Something invaded you, and I call that a bacteria. Now, it might have come into you in the form of a virus, which is not a bacteria. It's like a half a bacteria. And it got into you in the form of like a little pill called that capsid, and it lodged in your squamous cells, which are the little flat cells in your lungs and in your throat and your nose, and they're just like a paper, they're just as thin can be, pops in there. Now, it goes in, the sheath pops open, it gets into a cell, its enzyme takes over the cell using the product of the protein. And then it starts to create its own replications. And then they go out, and then at some point they attack your rubbery substances in the collagen, in the heart, in the lungs, in the blood vessels and all that. And like, there's a lot of people dying of blood clots. And I'm not sure what they're thinking about that, but I don't think they're thinking correctly. What's happening is the things that are supposed to be doing this every time your heart goes thump, 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 these are all blood vessels, and they break. They literally crack, and you get clots, and blood starts floating around. You clot, and where the little tiny things are, they start to back up there. The cells back up. You could clot, and then your case is closed, and your blood stops working, and you die. All right, I've shown you, or I will show you, extremely elegant molecules called proteins, called enzymes. And these are the virus molecules, also extremely elegant. And all these coiled coils of proteins and so forth. You see them? Exactly the same as is in enzymes. And I believe, I know I can't claim this for a fact, I was told this was the coronavirus. Now, it doesn't matter, because viruses have this structure, so it doesn't matter which one it is, because it's just going to be a little bit of a different chemistry. But it will be virtually identical to an enzyme, because it's exactly manufactured the same way. This is just manifest destiny. I came just to show an enzyme, how similar it is to the virus, and magnesium catalase enzyme molecule. Catalase is what we're talking about. This is, and it's apparently there's a lot of different types. This says, here's what this says: magnesium catalase, molecular model of the enzyme magnesium catalase, which is this enzyme, from the bacterium, which is a bacteria, Lactobacillus plantarum. Now, Lactobacillus, I don't have, oh yes I do, Lactobacillus plantarum. You see that? That's in this primal defense. Now, you need all of these different bacteria. This is a bacteria. You don't get that without the bacteria. You don't get it without the bacteria. So how did they think all these enzymes are being created and these viruses are being created without a bacteria? That's what gets me. But isn't that's manifest destiny? I clicked on enzymes, and blip, this one pops up, catalase. All right, now here's why you have to take this extremely seriously. Your textbooks are wrong. This is what the cells actually are. Now this is Gokul Seeker, and he is one of the top researchers in the world. And I think he's UCLA or one of them out there, but here goes. This is when here's what happened. Let me just start it off by saying, we are going to be looking at the white blood cells, which are the immune system. And these organelles are going to be creating these enzymes exactly as we're watching. In real time. Done. And you saw how complicated those molecules were. Absolutely, unbelievably complicated. And they do it just like that. And then when that catalase hits whatever it's supposed to break, it breaks just like that. It's a 10 to the 7th power in a second. It's just mind-boggling. But anyway, this is mind-boggling because they could never see inside the cells and see the different molecules and see the different interactions and see the different colors. Now, this is critical you listen to me carefully. Listen carefully. What we are going to be watching is the actual interaction of the living organisms that are in your body, or whatever you want to call them. They're little molecules that are creating things or reacting or sending signals or reacting to signals. However you want to look at it, but that's where he's going to be looking at. And the first thing we're going to see is a big white blood cell, and it has all kinds of membranes running through it. And those membranes are where these organelles are bound. They call them membrane-bound organelles. In my whole life, I called bacteria membrane-bound bacteria. Now they say it's membrane-bound organelles. Well, that's fine. Call it whatever you want. But I always knew that bacteria was bound in these membranes, and I'm sticking with that until they can prove there is no bacteria inside the nucleolus of what they call now these organelles. Now, but don't forget now, up until just a year ago, they had no clue about really what the cells were like inside. So I think they're still working on old information, because I'm going to tell you something. Information in research moves at a glacial pace. Now, this is brand new. This has got to be taken into account, because he's going to show bacteria that is in there strictly to understand what's coming in to evade you and to report to the brain and to create a signal down to the bacteria. Then there is other bacteria that is the bacteria is being created, talked to say, make this certain product and go out and kill this certain thing. And then there's other bacteria that it gets told to go out and make enzymes to break down food because the guy just ate some carrots or whatever it is. And all of these things are so specific. They're going to be talking to an exact group of bacteria, because they create an exact enzyme, and that exact enzyme breaks down an exact molecule. And there's thousands of bacteria in your body, different species, and each one of them creates a different enzyme. And that different enzyme is a different molecule, and that different molecule reacts with a different type of chemistry. Simple as that. Alright, unlike my normal way, I am going to let this run unedited, because it's only going to run for like a minute or so. He's going to show when he first discovered. We're going to see the different structure, we're going to see the cells, we're going to see the little colored organelles. There's little spots that are organelles. We'll see those, and then we'll see one of them get turned on, and it will make its enzyme, blip, out it goes. You know, they're going to talk about something different. They're going to talk about eating food and this and that. It's not really that. They're making, they're immune cells. They make enzymes. They make something to go out and keep you healthy. So here goes.
I still remember the moment. It's something I will never forget. The hair on my hands just stood up. It's a microscopic universe within each cell.
This is an unprecedented view of the cellular world, where we can actually see immune cells scooping up sugars in the ear of a zebrafish in real time.
Focusing only on the crawling immune cells, we've noticed two classes of them. One team was not hungry at all, but it was very active in terms of trying to figure out, what the environment is. There was another one that was kind of slouching around with a lot of food in its belly. We can actually conceptualize and visualize and analyze the contents of each of these cellular compartments in this crawling immune cell. as it's kind of, scooping up its environment. I mean, that is a level of details no one's seen before.
We're living.
All right, now they're just going to go on about how fabulous this is, and you should come up and watch this. It's called Your Textbooks Are Wrong. This is what cells actually look like. Now, let's take it up to the final conclusion here. All right, the point I want to make here is that it is vitally important to be able to eliminate all of the substances in your body that could damage us as an organism. And there is all kinds of things in your body that you have to get rid of. All right? And there's all kinds of things in your body that you need. So you have both things. You have problems and you have solutions. Now, that means that you have to maintain a constant internal environment. That means that you have something that can damage you and something that can heal you. And a lot of times, they're buddies. They work together. This one destroys zinc. This one keeps this guy from destroying too much zinc. So this one is responsible for a level of zinc. And if it sees it rise above that, it pushes this guy back down. And usually you have a good and a bad of almost everything in your body. This can make too much, this can make too little. They work together to create a constant internal environment, a homeostasis. All right? And that works in every bit of your body, on your skin, on your face, in your ears, in your eyes. Every bit of it is different chemistry. And every bit of it, you got your kidneys, you got your liver, you got your heart, you got your spleen, your gallbladder, and every single one of them, 100%, have different chemistry. And they do different jobs in your body. I mean, it's just the way it works. It is just the most elegant thing that I have ever seen. I have been so deep into this, it's just absolutely stunning every single day, the deeper I get. And now I'm into the nucleolus of the ribosome, which is an organelle that exists within the cells. And within that organelle, the ribosome is a nucleolus. And in that nucleolus, it controls the little balls that are called ribosomes. And they go out into your body and they either fix something or they break something. If it breaks something, we consider it a virus. If it fixes something, we consider it an enzyme. We also consider it an enzyme if it breaks down food. Now, if it breaks down our body and hurts us, we call it a virus. The same thing, same damn thing. It's just it's a different chemical structure. One of them is invasive and toxic, and one of them is helpful. Or it breaks down food that we need to get broken down. And they do it in just absolutely stunning numbers. They're a catalyst, and the numbers they do it in, like 10 to the 7th power in 1 second. One molecule converts that many. I find it very hard to believe. That is what they say. And it doesn't get used up. It goes on like that, on and on and on. These molecules, there's so many molecules in a little tiny thing. You just can't possibly imagine how much chemistry is being done. I mean, just instantaneously. Absolutely stunning what I'm turning over here. It's just blowing my mind. All right, either I did or I didn't already go into the other paper about all the details about catalase, but this is about the catalase gene, the gene that produces catalase in your body. And it's genomics and the region and the transcription and the products, and it's literally a code. It's literally a program code. And I went to Johns Hopkins for genomics. I understand this stuff extremely well. Now, this is what I wanted to show you, though. This is the most important thing. They looked at where is catalase in the body, and what are the concentrations. Look at this, the liver, and in fat, and in bone marrow. Well, what does catalase do? Catalase is an enzyme, just like this is it right here, catalase. It's an enzyme. Now they're talking about this for your making your hair grow. Well, let me tell you something. Catalase being found in all of these things, and especially the liver, it is a blood conditioner. Let's talk about this. All right, part of how I fell on this was irritable bowel syndrome and hair loss. Irritable bowel syndromes, that's everything to do with your gut. You're not processing your food correctly. That means you don't have the right bacteria in your body in the right balances to break the food down so that it doesn't become toxic to you. Basically, that's the bottom line. And every single disease there is, if you have any condition whatsoever, put that in, follow it by, and digestive disorders. Click, and it'll tell you if you have this certain disease, you will also have certain gastrointestinal issues. And they say the disease causes the thing. I say it's just the opposite. The gastrointestinal condition can't break your food down, can't fight against the things that are doing to you. That's why you feel terrible in your stomach, and that's why you have the disease, not the other way around. All right, that's my statement. I can pretty much stand by that. Okay, don't forget your textbooks were wrong. This is really what a cell looks like, and these are the immune cells. This right here is a factory. And these right here, I believe, are the organelles that are the producers of what you're seeing being produced right there, which is an enzyme, or in the case of a bad actor, it would be a virus. But in our immune cells, you would expect it would be a good actor and be an enzyme. Now, I am going to go back here just a smidge and show you it being created. Now listen to this. I think I've shown this already, but this will show it in detail. Remember, I say those are organelles. One of them, like say this guy right here, is going to be told, make an enzyme and shoot it out because you got to go kill some COVID. Watch.
This is an unprecedented view of the cellular world, where we can actually see immune cells scooping up sugars in the ear of a zebrafish in real time.
Zip right out there. That's how it works. And that's how enzymes and viruses are created within the organelles, which are bound into those membranes, and then out they go. All right, so let's sum it up. We know that UCLA and some other highly, these are big researchers did this in China, apparently, and UCLA found that catalase is this enzyme, and they did a detailed study. And here is the detailed study. And I looked through this, it's very detailed. And here's the cut to the chase, though. Herein it is a therapeutic. They're using this as a therapeutic based on catalase. And that's all. Which is an antioxidant enzyme. I know I've gone into pretty good detail, I think, by now, that can effectively break down hydrogen peroxide and minimize downstream reactive oxygen species which excessively produce, resulting from infection and inflammatory processes reported. And they claim that this will suppress the injuries from these inflammations by keeping inflammation down. Right? So it will protect oxidative injury, and it also represses the replication of the SARS-CoV-2. And they demonstrated this in these studies. And I'm going to go into the studies now, just pretty quick. All right, I think I may have already gone through this, but this is the paper that supports the statements and the data and all of the other stuff they did. This is really the data. But here's what it says. This is the summary. And they're talking about the gene. This is about the gene that encodes for this catalase that makes it. Otherwise, if the gene isn't working correctly, yes, correct, you're not going to have catalase. I agree with that. But if the gene is working and you don't have the enzyme, the bacteria or whatever, to create the catalase, you're not going to have the catalase. I believe there's a bacteria somewhere in the middle of this thing. I could be wrong, but I'd like to see him hunt around and look for it. But let's go a little further here. It says it's a key antioxidant enzyme. Enzymes, to me, come from bacteria in the body's defense against these oxidation. Now, catalase is a hemi-enzyme, blood, iron, that is present in the perisome of nearly all aerobic cells. That's every cell that uses oxygen, which is obviously every cell in your body. Catalase converts the reactive oxygen species, hydrogen peroxide, to water and oxygen, and thereby stops the toxic effect of the hydrogen peroxide, which is what we talked about. Now, I'm going to leave you with this thought. Now, again, it's all programming. This is all programming codes. And that's all these things do. They're programs. Now, don't forget, catalase is in the liver. And you saw, I hope I'm remembering this correctly, but I know I showed the organs and how they all work together. And look at all these different places. Where is it in your body? In the fat, and the esophagus, and the duodenum, the colon, the brain, the adrenal, the skin, thyroid, urinary system, lungs, everywhere, but primarily in the liver. And the thing with the liver is all the blood goes through it. And, well, I'm going to have to show you the vagus nerve, because that's the key to everything. Because the vagus nerve is the regulator of all of the organs that regulate all of the enzymes in these different areas. I mean, the vagus nerve is the key. And I'm still trying. I mean, I don't have all the answers. Trust me. I'm not saying, oh, I know everything about it. No, absolutely not. However, stumbling across this, and this was truly a stumble, and nobody's talking about this. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. I wouldn't have found this except that I was looking at a different enzyme, and it was something to do with hair. And that's what they sell this for, is for hair loss and making your hair stop from turning gray. And this is what I don't know. I'm telling. But here's what they say. Here's what they're talking about, and it makes sense. Catalase is reduced in older people. When you're younger, you got a lot of catalase. When you get older, it's not up here, it's down here, let's say. And your hair goes gray. You go back up to here, and your hair stops being gray. That's what they say. That's what they're talking about here. Now, I didn't get it from my hair. I got it for what they're talking about from UCLA. And, you know, I got to be honest with you, I would have thought this would be in some kind of discussion about this. They're claiming it's literally a cure. I didn't say it. UCLA said it. All right, let me just cut right to the chase. This is that study. It's a very, very, very detailed study. And what it tells us is that when you give them the same viral load, they call it, what happens is they exhibit a similar viral load to the control group at day 1 and 2, after which the viral load rapidly decreases and remains significantly lower than the control group. And everywhere you see it says the same thing. This figure 4F shows the liver renal functions of the groups, and all of these different chemistry remain the same, indicating that intravenous administration of this cat did not cause any noticeable liver or renal toxicity. See, they all exhibited similar levels. All right, so it didn't cause any toxicity. And it goes on, and every one of them says it is effective. And up here somewhere it says that it tells how it stops the COVID transmission. Here's right here. Well, let's just get that down. Figure 3D shows a body weight change of animals, suggesting the experiment group have less weight loss. These results confirm the ability of CAT2 to repress the replication of SARS-2 in rhesus monkeys. And it just goes on and on and on. And like I say, well, here we go. In conclusion, we have shown the anti-inflammatory effect. And what it does, it regulates these cytokines. I don't know exactly how, but it creates chemistry. It's an enzyme. So some chemistry it does keeps the inflammation under control. All right, so let's just say again now. In conclusion, we have shown the anti-inflammation effect and ability of this catalase to regulate the cytokines, the killers, in these leukocytes, which are our white blood cells. They protect alveolar cells, which are the really thin layers of cells, from oxidative stress, which is the extra H2Os, H2O2s, and it represses the replication of SARS-CoV-2. That's the conclusion, without noticeable toxicity. Moreover, it's worth noting the catalase is safe, commonly used, it's ubiquitous in your body, and the pilot scale manufacturing has been successfully demonstrated, in contrast to the current focus of vaccines, which is where everything's looking for a vaccine. And this may provide an effective therapeutic solution for the pandemic, as well as a treatment of hyperinflammation in general. Hyperinflammation is almost the cause of everything that damages you in perpetuity. In other words, once you get hyperinflammation, your tissue gets so torn up that it gets scarred. And then it doesn't do the job it's supposed to. Some of them are supposed to be rubbery, some of them are supposed to be stretchy, some of them are supposed to be tough. Once you damage it, it doesn't, it's a scar. Now, this stuff here is everywhere in your body, and it somehow keeps the hyperinflammation in general in check. Now listen to this. This is just crazy. And I was going back through some of my chemistry experiments I did, checking the heat of transfer and heat of solution and all of that stuff. And I don't know how I ended up finding this, but it's just unbelievable. Guess what that happens to these enzymes? Now, they're temperature regulated. And at a certain temperature, they just stop working. Guess what that temperature is? 104 degrees. It's right in that area where people get really deathly ill. They pack them in ice sometimes, and which is obviously now a very good thing to do, because if the enzyme stops working in your body, it's the thing that cleans your blood. You're getting worse and worse and worse. The hotter you get, at a certain point, everything goes bad. And everybody knows, well, not everybody knows it, but medical people understand at a certain temperature, you're really starting to get, they get worried, because you're going to be likely dying if you get too hot. So anyway, this is very, very, very important. And this article, I just accidentally dropped into this one because I was studying something else. I'm not even going to bother telling you what I was studying, but I was studying something else, and it led me into this molecule. And this molecule led me into this study, and this study is for COVID-19. And that's the only way I found it. It's not you're never going to run into this anywhere else. I can't believe it. The study is so complete and significant, and it's published. They have all of their people on board with this. This is UCLA, and people all over the world know about this now. But it's just not being talked about because they're looking for the vaccine, which is the big payday. This here, I don't know what it costs, but I don't think it's very much. I don't know. I'm just presenting what they're saying. I didn't do this research. They did it. I'm just talking about it.